Hi, this is just going to be a quick video on how to use your flash. Step number one is like, why would you use a flash, right? I'm sure you've seen a lot of pictures where they just don't look very nice. You just see very dark shadows and like very bright lights just shine on your subject's face. It doesn't look very nice. The image is basically screaming that this image was taken with a flash. So that's not something you want. The whole reason why you will use a flash is because you want to keep your shutter speed at 1/160 or higher because you don't want motion blur in your pictures. Where your subjects will be moving, I wouldn't go any lower than 1/160. What you can do to compensate for this is usually to decrease your aperture, so you can shoot at 1.8 and you can shoot at 2.8. But you can't be shooting at 1.8 all the time, right? Especially in events, you need to capture large crowds, you need to capture group photos. And if you shoot at 1.8 for group photos, or the first subjects in the row might be fine. If you have a subject behind, it's going to be blur, then you're not going to be able to see their face. They're going to become part of the bokeh in the background. If I have to shoot with a shutter speed of 160, I have to shoot f4 or higher, I would have to increase my ISO by a lot. You still need to expose the image correctly. Even for full frame cameras, shooting at 6000 ISO, while it's still usable, it's not great. So Speedlight is just another form of light to incorporate into your images so that you can decrease your ISO. If you want to shoot very large group photos, sometimes you need to start down to 5 or 6, depending on how many rows there are as well. How do you expose your subjects correctly? So a very common mistake is that you're basically just shining the light straight at them. So if I do this and shine it at your face, you're going to be very blown out. What we're trying to do is introduce a light that's not so harsh. Turn your flash on, TTL on the flash, set on automatic mode. You go there, look at the subject, you press the shutter and you see, oh look, it's a bit too bright, right? What do you do when it's too bright? You press this button right here. It says plus or minus. You can reduce the amount of light that's coming out of the flash, or you can increase it. It's still using auto mode. Just decrease the amount of light you want. So just use this. This thing will change your life. Flash is in TTL mode, which is basically auto. TTL stands for through the lens. So the flash and the camera communicate and it decides what the correct exposure is. Flash decides how bright it shoots for you. And as you're clicking away, it fires the flash upwards into the ceiling, and then it bounces off the ceiling and acts as another source of light. It's like having a light bulb on top of you, right? Because it's firing off and it's just reflecting down. So think of it as having an extra light bulb right above your head. Depending on how you're tilting the flash, you kind of like playing pool, you know, bouncing off the sky onto your subject. Thinking of like where you want to add this additional light bulb above your subject's face. Fire a flash off, the subject is very well lit because there's a light bulb right on top of you, right? But the background is still very dark. How do you make it look that it's very naturally lit? Bring up your ISO to light up the background. If you turn your flash off, your screen will start to dim because it's exposing without the flash. Increase the ISO on the camera to where you think the background is well lit enough that it won't look unnatural. Sometimes it can be 2000, sometimes it can be 3000. Really depends on in the environment. Expose the background correctly, then you turn on the flash, and then you find a test subject, fire it off, and then dial the settings on the flash to adjust the exposure for the subject. Don't be afraid if you have to dial up to like 3000 or 4000 just to get the background lit properly. Using the flash will still expose your subject bright enough that there won't be that much noise in your image. So kind of like a small example. So shining a torchlight up above me, you kind of see the light bouncing up. It's just shining at the ceiling right now and it's kind of like decently lit. But if I were to point it straight at the subject, it's very uncomfortable for your subject to be flashed in the face, and the results don't look very flattering. So it acts as a light bulb that's reflecting onto your subject's face, using the ISO to brighten the background. So think of it as that way. Okay. Thank you, goodbye.